Right, here we go. In the past year, I've bought two cameras. One was the Sony a7 III and the other was the iPhone 13. Today, I'm going to compare those cameras. Today's video is filmed using this setup. An iPhone in cinematic mode and the Sony a7 III with a 35mm prime lens on it, set to aperture priority. Hopefully it gives a good comparison. Now this isn't going to be super in-depth, this is more of a general consumerist view of the two cameras. The first I'm going to compare is the colours. Both cameras have picked similar white balances in these outdoor shots. The iPhone uses its AI to bring down the highlights more, where the Sony is showing exactly what it sees. The iPhone tends to try and bring out more colours in the sky as well. The main difference seems to be in the exposure. The iPhone is using its machine intelligence to maximise its dynamic range. The Sony is capable of much more, but for the sake of this comparison, no picture profile is being used. These shots have now been colour graded. What do you think? Which looks more professional? In my opinion, although the iPhone looks better initially, the Sony has more flexibility and will look better after post-processing. The second area I'm going to compare is the depth of field. This means if the background is blurry or not and how shallow your focus is on your subject. Here, the iPhone 13 is trying to decide automatically what the focus should be and create an artificial depth of field around that focus. Here, with the Sony, it is automatically focusing on what it is deciding the focus should be, but the blur is a natural blur, not created digitally. The iPhone's cinematic mode does have a strange look compared to the natural look of the Sony. The edges of my face here do look a bit unnatural, as well as on the branches here, the blur looks unnatural. Here we have the iPhone 13 switching focus from the foreground to the background. In high detail scenes like this, a lot of mistakes can be made with its digital blurring. Sometimes it blurs areas that shouldn't be blurred, or it misses some areas out. And once you become aware of these, it can feel very unnatural to look at. Here we have the Sony switching focus between the foreground to the background. This looks a lot more natural, and the blur, as it's not artificial, is always perfect. To really see the depth of field, it's best to get as close to the lens as you can. Here, as I move backwards and forwards, you can see that the background becomes less blurry and more blurry as the distance from the camera changes. There is always a focus on the subject, as the focus is determined after the filming is done. Here, on the Sony camera, you can see that the camera is searching for me, and when I move quickly it is unable to keep focus on me. However, the blur is always completely natural and does not look artificial. Our final area of comparison is stabilization, removing shakes from naturally handheld shots. So stabilization, this is me handheld walking along using the same rig. The iPhone 13 is clearly the winner in this category. Although the Sony has inbuilt stabilization, it is nowhere near on par with the iPhones, with lots of jitters on show. And this, just for an extreme example, is me jogging. Just to do justice to the Sony, a post-stabilization can be applied. This is what that looks like. At the end of the day, the Sony is going to be the better camera in most scenarios. However, from comparing the two, I think It's quite impressive how smart the iPhone is at working out what you want from it. It'll bring the colours out in the clouds. It will look for a face and get that depth of field, the artificial depth of field. And it will be mostly successful in creating a realistic looking background blur. However, if you understand cameras and you understand the look you want, you'll always be able to get the better look from the Sony. I'm not sure how useful this comparison's been really. To be honest, I've really missed making videos and I just wanted to make something. Hopefully I'll be back making travel vlogs in no time. See you soon.